Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, President and CEO of Empire State Development, Howard Zemsky, Fox Business Network anchor and global markets editor, Maria Bartiromo, and Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Good afternoon, and well, thank you. Welcome to the 2016 6th Annual Regional Economic Development Awards Ceremony. I'm Kathy Hochul, your Lieutenant Governor, and I am also Chair of the Regional Economic Development Councils. Before we begin our program, I'd like to introduce some of our distinguished guests here today, starting with our hometown host here, the Mayor of the City of Albany, Kathy Sheehan is here. I want to recognize her, and if you'll bear with me. Now, I have a tip for you. That's really nice applause for the mayor. I love her dearly. But if you want to hold your applause after everybody else, we can get to the big announcements a little bit sooner. So you want to go that route? I thought so. We also have our local county executives from Albany County. Daniel McCoy is here. Erie County, Mark Polenkars. Monroe County, Cheryl Donalfo. Montgomery County, Matthew Ossenford. Oneida County, Anthony Pacenti. Putnam County, Mary Ellen Odell, and Rensselaer, Kathleen Jimeno. And a warm welcome to all of our state legislators. We have our senators, Senator James Seward, Senator Patricia Ritchie, Senator Joseph Griffo, Senator Thomas O'Mara, Senator David Valesky, and from our assembly we have Assemblywoman Vivian Cook, Assemblyman Mark Butler, and Assemblyman Peter Lopez, and any other elected officials. We welcome you here today. So let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you. I also want to recognize the fact that the governor's cabinet is here. I've had a chance to cover the state with so many of them, and what incredible individuals they are, and thank them for their dedication, as well as the incredible staff, people behind the scenes, and the REDC staff who put their heart and soul into this initiative year-round. In fact, they're working on next year's already. But let me just give a special shout-out to Brendan Hughes, Ashley McCloskey, Allison Walsh, and Matt Isgro. I want to thank all of you for your dedication to this process, and all the amazing regional reps and the ESD team on the ground all over the state of New York. You know, on behalf of the governor, I want to thank each of you for making this journey. And I'm not just referring to the journey that brought you to this hall today, but the journey that you embarked on over 6 years ago, when the governor announced his new vision for economic development during his very first State of the State address on a very cold day in January of 2011. For that was the day that the governor declared the end, and indeed closed the chapter on the failing status quo. And that's the day the New York State comeback story began. And each of you as RADC members were tasked with writing your own chapter, your own local narrative, building on the unique assets and strengths of your very own regions. And you look at that, ladies and gentlemen, how far we've come. And I know you see and feel as I do that this transformation has been spectacular. Together, we've brought together leaders, the thought leaders from academia, from business, not-for-profits, government, everyone who has a real stake in their community. We brought them together. And in fact, we turned competitors into collaborators. We turned pessimists into optimists. And we turned cynics into true believers. And believe me, I'm from Buffalo. I know a cynic when I see one. There's no more left in Buffalo. And your role in implementing the governor's vision has been absolutely critical. And I hope that all of you feel, as I do, a tremendous sense of pride as you're walking the new revitalized downtowns and communities across our state. As I travel all across this state, and I get around a little bit, I've been to all the counties multiple times, and been to many ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings and tours, and I'm just so fascinated by the shift in people's attitudes about what we've accomplished. And so I see new people, new downtowns, new businesses, new factories, a new life in these downtowns that have once been forgotten. And in fact, ladies and gentlemen, the new New York has indeed arrived. And I want to tell the governor, you believed in the people of this state at a time when they had lost hope. They no longer viewed their state government as an agent of positive change. In fact, the opposite was true. And they lost faith in the ability of state government to lead. And you proved to them they were wrong. And through the RADC process, you challenged them to write their own story, to chart their own destiny. And the people, the members of the RADCs who are represented here, you wrote your own story now. And that is something that you should be so proud of. It's a tale of unprecedented success. So today, New York State's comeback story continues with the announcements that we're about to hear. And so without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our mistress of ceremonies for today's event. She has covered business and the economy for more than 25 years and helped build the business cable network into a powerhouse, CNBC. Now at Fox Business, she's an anchor at Mornings with Maria on FBN and anchors Sunday Morning Futures, which is the most watched Sunday morning cable television program. Her reporting has earned her numerous prestigious awards, 2 Emmys, and in 2009, the Financial Times named her one of the 50 faces that shaped the decade. A true pioneer in her industry, she was the first female journalist inducted into the Cable Hall of Fame class of 2011. We are so grateful to have her here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, give me a warm welcome to Maria Bartiromo. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor Hochul. Great to see you, and I appreciate that kind introduction. It is great to be with all of you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. It is my honor and pleasure to be with you today once again. This is actually the 4th time that I've had the honor of hosting these awards. And every time, thank you. And every time it has empowered and inspired me. So, Governor, thank you so much for having me once again. As a journalist who covers business and the economy and watches economic growth, and also a lifelong New Yorker, it makes me incredibly proud to see this kind of resurgence that New York has experienced under the leadership of our great governor, Governor Cuomo. Just a few short years ago, as Governor Hochul just told us, just a few short years ago, New York was struggling. It was struggling to create jobs, attract businesses, get the economy moving again. But all of that changed in 2011 when Governor Cuomo entered office. and he implemented the wildly successful bottom-up approach to economic development that we all know today as the Regional Economic Development Councils. By empowering the people who know their communities better than anyone, the governor has been able to transform this state's economic development strategy into one that is not only successful, but enduring, built to last. And your efforts and progress can be seen really in every corner of the state, whether it be the growth of new industries, advanced manufacturing, the rebuilding of our infrastructure for the 21st century, or the innovative companies coming to our state to start or expand their businesses and create jobs. We're even seeing companies that left decades ago begin to return. They're coming home thanks to this improved business climate. Literally, there are hundreds of thousands of new private sector jobs in New York today, and we're experiencing one of the lowest rates of unemployment this state has seen in decades. But all of this, of course, did not happen overnight. This revitalization, this momentum, is a direct result of the community-based regional councils and the transformative projects that are shaping the future and shaping our communities. Today, we carry that progress forward. I commend and thank all of you from Buffalo to Montauk and everywhere in between. You are building a better New York. You are the reason the Empire State is the greatest state in the country. Now, please give a warm welcome. Join me in welcoming someone who has played a critical role in New York's economic resurgence, the President and CEO of the Empire State Development, Howard Zemsky.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Maria, for that very kind introduction. It's great to have you with us. Always great to be with the governor and the lieutenant governor and such a distinguished group throughout this room. Well, I'm embarrassed to confess that I almost didn't make it here on time. You see, to get here from my office in Albany, I instinctively took out my smartphone and I went to my Uber app. I'm not done. The car arrived 2 hours and 45 minutes later, since it started in New York City. So I get in the car, and I say to the guy, I got to get to the egg. Of course, he's not from Albany. He types into his GPS, egg. We end up at Price Chopper. I explained the misunderstanding that in Albany we have an egg that's actually a building. Of course, he's skeptical, and I'm frustrated because it's now over 3 hours and $650 to get a car from New York to Albany to Price Chopper to the egg. I sure hope that doesn't happen again next year. That's a true story. Oh, man. I've been in business most of my life, that's true. And I co-chaired the Western New York Regional Economic Development Council for 4 years with Satish. And I know the kind of work that you put into this. I really do. And it's an amazing effort, and it's a team effort. And the impact, the extremely positive impact you've all had in your communities, implementing the governor's very strategic, collaborative approach to economic development. I don't think in my lifetime I could have imagined sort of seeing the kind of change that we've seen in Western New York and throughout upstate, and really throughout the state, the traction that we're getting absolutely everywhere. You've helped create over 90,000 new private sector jobs in the past year alone, and the governor has a comprehensive economic development approach of revitalization, of innovation, of workforce development, of tradable sectors, and of competitiveness. For way too long, we did not subscribe to the notion that New York competes with other states, and we lost so many businesses. But now with spending lower, with taxes lower, with investments in infrastructure, and with all your help, we have so dramatically turned the economic corner. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to be out across the state with all of you as we make economic development announcements all over the state, including those parts of the state that were so long neglected and forgotten. So it's great to be out there with all of you throughout the year. I couldn't be prouder to work for a governor who really gets it, really, truly, definitely gets it, and is making things happen in every corner of this state for the first time in too long. Congratulations and thanks to all of you for the hard work that has gone into round 6. You're all good eggs in my book. Thank you.
Thank you, Howard. It is now my pleasure to introduce the man whose vision and leadership has brought us to where we are today, our fearless leader, Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, what a treat to have Maria Bartiromo back. She is not just a star on Fox TV, but she literally is a global economic voice, and she's always all around the globe participating in world economics, and that she comes here to Albany to be with all of you really is a testament to your good work. And let's give a big round of applause for her, for our gratitude. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who's been all over the state working with the REDCs, and she's done a great job, and let's give her a round of applause. And that leaves one other person who you've heard from. Reminds me of the story. We passed marriage equality in the state of New York a few years back, and it puts marriage equality now in the national spotlight. And if once New York passes it, it makes it a fair question to ask everybody else in the country and every other governor and every other senator. One of the powers of New York, you can shape the national dialogue. So we pass it. Next week or so later, they go to the vice president. And they say to the vice president, if you were New York's governor or you were a senator or legislator in New York, would you have signed marriage equality? And the president and the vice president had basically been silent on the question up until then. And Vice President Biden said, I would sign the bill. Definitively said that. And then they said, well, what does the president think? And he said, well, you better ask the president what he thinks. And one of the advisors said the next day, well, it doesn't leave the president a lot of room after the vice president said he's in favor of it. And the president wound up saying he's in favor of it. The question of Uber upstate has been a roundly debated topic, but I guess I support Uber upstate. And so I want to thank you for that little help there, Howard. And that's how we make policy in this state. A little frightening, but you know, it's however it gets there, it gets there. And let the record show, I actually had the position first, I want you to know, because Howard got the number for Uber from me. I'm the one who gave him the number. But besides making great policy, he has done a phenomenal job at ESDC. Let's give him a round of applause. You don't need a lot of words from me because you know it, and you could give these remarks as well as I could. First words are thank you. Thank you to everybody in this room. Thank you for believing in your community again after many, many years of disappointment. Thank you for believing in a new way of doing economic development. Thank you for leaving your own personal agendas aside and coming together to cooperate rather than compete. You really have done an extraordinary job. The amount of time, the amount of energy, the amount of effort, and the talent that you brought to the table was really special. And that's why the REDCs are working. The formula works, but the formula was simple. The formula was if you burn more calories than you intake, you will lose weight. Yeah, thank you very much. I get the concept. The formula's right. It's the implementation that's hard. And you made the implementation a reality. We knew the formula said the state has to be a partner, and the state was not a partner for many, many years. And I've been honest about that, and I've been brutally honest about it. Why? Because I want to make sure we don't go back to the old days. And I want to state it that clearly. So if the state government ever starts to slip, you see it right away. Upstate New York was going through an economic transformation, and someone had to be there to help. Where do you find the investment capital to retrofit the economy? And the state government was not there. Why? Well, most of the legislature is from downstate New York. That is a fact. Most of the legislators are concerned about bringing funding back to their own district. So it was hard for the upstate members to get the kind of attention that upstate needed. And we changed that. We changed that 180 degrees. And I think you see more unity and more power in the upstate delegation than you've ever seen before. And I can tell you this, as long as I am governor of the state of New York, I will never sign a budget that does not help upstate New York with the economic funds it needs, period. The formula was to come up with business plans, not political plans, but business plans, because it's about creating jobs. And the formula was develop the partnership that you need to do that. Political officials, the business officials, the academic officials, all on a regional basis. And that's the partnership that actually will make it work. We know it's working, not just because we have nice videos, not just because you feel on the street a different energy. You see cranes, you see buildings. It also says it's working in the numbers, which are frankly extraordinary. When we started this process, unemployment in the state of New York was 8.5%. 5 years later, it's down to 5%. And I'll tell you what's even more striking, and even a prouder accomplishment. In the old days, the unemployment would come down statewide. It was normally driven by downstate New York. New York City would do well, the metropolitan area in New York City would do well, and the numbers would drop, but upstate New York would not participate in that success. These numbers are the exact opposite. Unemployment has dropped all across the state of New York. As a matter of fact, most regions have seen a greater drop in unemployment than has happened in New York City. And the economic success is now finally a statewide story of success and not just a downstate story of success. And that's because of the people in this room. Doesn't mean the job is done yet. We have more to do, certainly. We're looking at an economic shift that has gone on for over 60 years when you think about it. You're not going to correct that overnight. You're not going to correct it in 5 years or 6 years, no matter how hard you work. Many states across the country were doing this work back in the 80s. When I was HUD secretary during the Clinton years, I visited every state, and I'm telling you that they were already working on this. So in many ways, we got a slow start. But we redoubled our efforts, and we have more than caught up. The state is going to do its part going forward. We know what we need to do. We're going to be true to the formula. We're going to keep taxes down. We're going to keep funding the regional efforts in the next budget. And the state is going to be investing very heavily in infrastructure. We're doing it downstate. We're doing it upstate. Downstate from the Long Island Railroad to a Penn Station to LaGuardia Airport. Upstate New York, we're starting to rebuild the upstate airports because they are the front door to the community. Many of these businesses are not going to drive to upstate. They're going to fly to upstate. And we have to have an airport that works as a modern-day airport that is as competitive as any airport around the world. So we'll be doing our work on that front. You keep doing yours. The good news is overall, the economic tide is now with us. For many years, we were fighting the tide, right? What happened to upstate New York? Manufacturing was the industry, and manufacturing found a cheaper place to do business elsewhere, right? 60s, 70s, the jobs went to China, the jobs went down south because they could get labor cheaper than you could in New York. Fewer unions, fewer rules and regulations, lower taxes, lower hourly wages. And the jobs left. Yeah, but now it's coming back our way. Because now those low-wage manufacturing jobs, those repetitive assembly line jobs, they're gone anyway. And by the way, those workers were displaced not by Mexicans and not by immigrants and not by Muslims. Those jobs were displaced because they were displaced by robots and technology. And you don't have those repetitive jobs anymore. So what drove the businesses from upstate New York in the 60s is now gone. When they talk about advanced manufacturing, that's a high-tech assembly line, and one person who is then running those machines, and that is a skilled job. That is a technical job. And that worker has to be an educated worker. And that worker has to have continuing skills. And that job has to be associated with an educational facility that can do the training and keep the person current. And that is not overseas, and that is not down south. That is now in the sweet spot of New York. You want to talk about a great workforce, a great education system that'll rival any education system on the planet. 64 SUNY schools alone without even the private universities. You have the educational facility, you have the workforce, you have the space. Our tax structure is as competitive as anyone. Lowest middle-class taxes since the 40s. We have the manufacturing tax down to 0. So we are as competitive as any place in this country from a tax point of view, plus the workforce and the educational facilities. And we have the secret sauce and the formula, which is that academic university at the table, training workers for that advanced manufacturing job of tomorrow. The tide was against us. The tide is now with us. And that is all the difference. And we got there first. This time we're not playing catch-up. This time we're actually paving the way. And you're going to see growth in upstate New York as this cycle turns like we've never seen before. We went through tough periods, but we didn't give up, and now we prepared for a future that's going to be brighter than ever. And that's what you did, my friends. Congratulations.
This sounds so exciting. Let's get right to it. Governor, thank you so much for those inspiring words. On to the moment we have all been waiting for, the awards. This year, each of the 10 regions are competing for a stake of more than $700 million to pursue their vision for local economic development. 5 regions will be designated top performers, and the remaining 5 will be regional council awardees. Every region submitted interesting and thoughtful proposals. We have some brief videos to give a snapshot of what each council has been working on, both this year and throughout the Regional Council Initiative. We kick it off with Western New York. The Western New York Regional Economic Development Council consists of stakeholders from Allegheny, Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, Erie, and Niagara counties. Here's a snapshot of Western New York's work.
We all know that the real story of Western New York is of a region with stamina, strength, and grit.
We make it through hard times and come back stronger.
It's the story of people who just don't quit. The Western New York REDC is implementing smart growth, focusing investments and transforming communities before our very eyes. The Downtown Revitalization Initiative is helping the city of Jamestown realize its full potential, not only by driving tourism thanks to attractions like the National Comedy Center, but by building on its progress, redeveloping historic buildings, and revving up the waterfront. Public-private partnerships and investments like those in Roswell Park are paying off and making history. The Cancer Institute is the first in the nation with FDA permission to sponsor testing of a Cuban medical therapy and is launching a groundbreaking clinical trial of a lung cancer treatment with the potential to save lives. The REDC is also focused on supporting entrepreneurs and preparing our workforce, developing the talent pool already living and working in the region. Its Western New York Workforce Training Center on Buffalo's East Side is set to open in 2018 and will focus on training for careers in advanced manufacturing and energy, so today's workers are ready for tomorrow's challenges. The region's REDC is making these strategies work to build a better Buffalo and helping the West to win again.
Western New York will receive $62 million as a regional council awardee to continue that strategic plan. I'd like to invite the council co-chairs, Dr. Satish Tripathi and Jeff Belt, as well as all the regional stakeholders with us today to the stage to accept the award. Next up is the Finger Lakes region, which includes Genesee, Livingston, Monroe, Ontario, Orleans, Seneca, Wayne, Wyoming, and Yates counties, each with its own unique economic strengths and challenges. Let's take a look at what they've been doing.
The Finger Lakes REDC, a 2015 Upstate Revitalization Initiative winner, is staying focused on lifting people out of poverty and creating pathways to prosperity by building on what's already working. Luckily, the Finger Lakes does a whole lot very well. In addition to optics, photonics, and imaging, and next-generation manufacturing and technology, the Finger Lakes knows food. That potential is only growing. Cherry juice producer Cheribundi is moving to a new location and creating jobs in Geneva, the region's winner of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative. In Rochester, the expansion and modernization of Genesee Brewery serves as a symbol of the economic renaissance happening in the region. The project is transforming the area, boosting tourism, and creating and retaining jobs. Rochester's Eastman Business Park is now booming with beets. Love Beets USA is sourcing its products from New York State farmers and celebrating the grand opening of its $19 million facility. And the FoodLink Food Hub Production Center is making the region's economic goals a reality under the roof of one 28,000 square foot facility. The expansion of the commercial kitchen that builds community health, addresses poverty, and invests in local agriculture also provides a space for dozens of hard-to-place workers to be trained and prepared for food industry jobs. It's all about one goal, one community, one region, moving Finger Lakes forward.
Is a top performer, receiving $80.5 million as a top performer for their regional projects. I'd like to invite the council co-chair, Ann Kress, as well as the regional stakeholders with us today to the stage to accept that award. Next up, the Southern Tier, which encompasses the counties of Broome, Chemung, Shenango, Delaware, Schuyler, Steuben, Tioga, and Tompkins.
The Southern Tier REDC coined the term Southern Tier Soaring to describe its economic progress, and with support from the state, the region is taking flight. Aside from the 21st century transformation happening at the Elmira Corning Regional Airport, $10 million in improvements are coming to Elmira as a result of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, giving local businesses incentive to stay. That's exactly what Anchor Glass Container Corporation is doing. The company will remain in Elmira thanks to an REDC grant that allowed the company to modernize and retain nearly 300 jobs. Last year, the Southern Tier took home the Upstate Revitalization Initiative top prize to support its efforts, and it's paying off. Young people are returning, and amazing attractions are bringing tourists to the Tier. Track and safety upgrades at Watkins Glen International Speedway are drawing more than 830,000 visitors each year, and the improvements made with local materials are bringing IndyCar back to the venue for the Grand Prix in 2017 and 2018. Founded in Binghamton in 1948, Dick's Sporting Goods is strengthening its Southern Tier spirit, bringing a fifth distribution center to Broome County and creating hundreds of full-time jobs over the next 5 years. For the sixth round, the REDC is continuing to put this region on the rise, on pace for progress, showing that in the Southern Tier, the sky's the limit.
And the Southern Tier is a regional council awardee, which will receive $60.4 million. I'd like to invite the council co-chairs, Tom Tranter, Harvey Stenger, as well as all the regional stakeholders to the stage to accept their award. On to central New York we go, including the counties of Cayuga, Cortland, Madison, Onondaga, and Oswego. Here's a glimpse into how they've built momentum over the past 5 years.
When you think of central New York, you might think of this or this. You usually don't think of this. But investment in the unmanned aircraft systems industry is becoming the backbone for the region's plan for growth. The commercial use of drones will change the way we shop, the way we grow food, and the way we see the world. Thanks in part to the state's $30 million investment to develop a 50-mile traffic management system between Syracuse and Rome. It's just one industry advancing thanks to Central New York Rising, the Upstate Revitalization Initiative blueprint to grow the economy. Add to that a boost for Oswego, the area's Downtown Revitalization Initiative winner, and you've got a recipe for success that's transforming the region into a hub of the technology of the future. The local investments are having an impact across the nation. Syracuse's Ephesus Lighting is expanding as it brightens up more than 150 collegiate and professional sports stadiums, including the KeyBank Center, home of the Sabres. A different type of technology is emerging in downtown Syracuse at TCG Player, an online marketplace for collectible gaming cards that's giving employees a reason to make the area a destination.
It was a big step to move, like 2,000 miles away from home. But it was actually the people here. I made friends immediately.
In fact, the company's core values symbolize the momentum and potential of the entire region. Things are only impossible until they're not.
Central New York will receive $62.2 million as a regional council awardee. I'd like to invite the council co-chairs Rob Simpson and Dr. Danielle Laroque Arena, as well as all the regional stakeholders, to accept the award. Next is the Mohawk Valley Council, whose members are from Fulton, Herkimer, Montgomery, Oneida. Did I get that right? No, I didn't. Oneida, I'm sorry. Otsego, and Schoharie counties. Let's see what the Mohawk Valley has been up to.
The Mohawk Valley is in the midst of one of the most significant economic renaissances in New York State, filled with cool places, smart people, and some of the most promising opportunities in the nation. That starts at drone testing site Griffiths International Airport in Rome. A partnership with New Air Alliance is making it possible for Mohawk Valley Community College to offer a degree program that provides a direct workforce pipeline for unmanned aircraft systems testing. The once struggling agricultural industry is also rebounding, thanks in part to the farm-to-table movement driven by consumers' desire for fresh products from local farmers. This movement, coupled with the craft beverage business boom, is trickling down to local restaurants and bars. That, plus other projects from the governor's Downtown Revitalization Initiative, is helping to attract more people to downtowns like Oneonta. That boom is being brewed in Little Falls, thanks in part to Feldmeyer Equipment, which recently produced machinery for Casanovia's Empire Farmstead Brewery. The Mohawk Valley's tourism is also growing and is even taking on a different form at the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. The museum is now digitizing its collections and library, giving baseball fans greater access than ever before to the history of the sport. Downtown redevelopment, capitalizing on global opportunities and workforce development, is positioning the Mohawk Valley to become one of the centerpieces of New York State's revitalization.
Mohawk Valley is a top performer, $81.9 million. I'd like to invite the council co-chair, Dr. Robert Greer and Lawrence Gilroy III. And now we're moving on to the North Country, which is our largest region. It includes council members from Clinton, Essex, Franklin, Hamilton, Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties. Watch.
Clayton, Plattsburgh, Tupper Lake, Ogdensburg, Watertown, Potsdam, Saranac Lake, Lake Placid, Wilmington. The region spans hundreds of miles, yet this community is closely woven together like a quilt, using nature, history, and tourism as intricate pieces of fabric. And it is that unique unity that has been the North Country's secret to success. In the last 5 years, the North Country has been awarded more than $400 million, creating or retaining thousands of jobs with more than 400 projects. Historic streets, vibrant waterfronts, pristine mountains, lakes, and forests, all are thriving because of the community's pride, commitment, and devotion to succeed. Sharing 4 border crossings, the North Country has positioned itself to be an international asset with companies like Norsk Titanium from Norway, New York Airbrake of Germany, and Canada's Delastec. And there is more to come. Thanks to the governor's Downtown Revitalization Initiative, improvements are on the way to Plattsburgh. So whether it is for business, or to enjoy the great outdoors, or to learn a little more about the Empire State's rich history, one word means all of that in the North Country: community.
The North Country will receive $61.4 million as the Regional Council awardee for their projects. I'd like to invite the Council co-chairs, Gary Douglas and Dr. Tony Collins, as well as all the stakeholders, to the stage to receive their award. Next up, the Capital Region. This includes the counties of Albany, Columbia, Greene, Rensselaer, Saratoga, Schenectady, Warren, and Washington.
The Capital Region REDC continues to maintain its focus on creating its own cohesive regional economy, a vibrant garden where the arts, innovation, and cutting-edge technology are growing into endless possibilities and opportunities. Schenectady's Mohawk Harbor includes a 50-boat slip harbor along a mile of waterfront. The Rivers Casino will open soon, bringing in more jobs and tourism dollars with it. The region continues to create global connections through the expansion of the Port of Albany. Through the Big Lift operations, the region will expand its capacity to handle lifting massive and heavy cargo, like the steam turbines being produced at GE Power in Schenectady. And more businesses of tomorrow are starting to take form thanks to incubators, which are creating a business development ecosystem right in diverse urban neighborhoods. The Capital Region is also taking advantage of the momentum of the craft beer business boom. Breweries are partnering with Schenectady County Community College to create a career path to help bring qualified local professionals to the industry's workforce. And once barren downtown areas are now beginning to come back to life. Glens Falls received $10 million in state funding as part of the Downtown Revitalization Initiative to create a vibrant area to attract businesses and generate opportunity.
The Capital Region is a top performer, $83.1 million. I'd like to invite the council co-chairs, Jim Barba and James Steller, all the stakeholders, to the stage to accept their award. We head further south now to the Mid-Hudson region, comprised of stakeholders from Dutchess, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Sullivan, Ulster, and Westchester counties. Let's take a look at what the Mid-Hudson Regional Council has been up to.
I'm very proud of this area, and I want the world to discover it.
There are 3 ingredients in Mid-Hudson's recipe for success: live, work, and play. The Mid-Hudson is revitalizing the region's many river, hilltop, and crossroads urban centers. In Poughkeepsie, as part of the Middle Maine Revitalization Project, an old factory was converted into housing and has become a center for job development. Chief among the emerging companies, Colmar Laboratories in Port Jervis in Orange County. Thanks to a small investment from the state, the skin care production manufacturer was able to upgrade its manufacturing capabilities and create new jobs. Visitors from all over the world are flocking to see the refurbished walkway over the Hudson between Dutchess and Ulster counties. After years of hard work, the state's historic Parks Bridge is now a pedestrian walkway, the longest elevated of its kind in the world. The city of Middletown, winner of this year's $10 million Downtown Revitalization Initiative, is growing as a result of new and expanding businesses and educational institutions in and around the city. The Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council is aiming to prove there is no better place in New York State to live, work, and play.
The Mid-Hudson region is a top performer, $83.3 million for their regional projects. I'd like to invite co-chairs Dennis Murray and Len Schleifer, as well as all the regional stakeholders, to accept their award. And now New York City's Regional Council, encompassing Bronx, Kings, New York, Queens, and Richmond counties. Let's take a look.
The creative entrepreneurial spirit of the New York City region has resulted in awards of $320.2 million over 5 funding rounds. In Manhattan, a world-class life sciences industry cluster is emerging thanks to the foundation laid by state initiatives, like the Alexandria Science Center, the New York Genome Center, and Harlem Biospace. And that's not all the action we'll see. We're talking the kind with lights and camera in front of it. In August 2016, Silver Cup Studios expanded from its Queens facility, opening the first film and television studio in the Bronx. Jamaica Queens, winner of this year's $10 million Downtown Revitalization Initiative, is on the cusp of a renaissance. Downtown Jamaica is experiencing a wave of private and public investments in infrastructure, housing, hospitality, retail, and jobs. New York City produces 55% of statewide economic output, and this year, the REDC is looking to ensure the benefits of the region's prosperity are felt across all 5 boroughs.
New York City is a top performer, $80.2 million for their regional projects. I'd like to invite the co-chairs, Winston Fisher and Cheryl Moore, as well as all the stakeholders, to the stage to accept the award. Last but not least, Long Island, home to Nassau and Suffolk counties. Take a look.
Clean living, clean jobs. That's what you'll find along Long Island, where the REDC is focused on growth at home and beyond its shores. The Long Island REDC is a 4-time top performer. At one of its research and development facilities at Farmingdale State College, Modern Meadow is growing leather from a protein found in animal hide in the heart of Nassau County. On the same site where Charles Lindbergh took on the first solo nonstop transatlantic flight in his Spirit of St. Louis, Sloan Kettering is bringing a cutting-edge cancer research and treatment center. In Patchogue, the LGBT network is expanding its center, which provides services for runaway and homeless youth. Inclusion is a way of life on Long Island, which was evident when the demographically diverse village of Westbury became Long Island's first $10 million recipient under Governor Cuomo's helpful downtown revitalization initiative. These industries are focusing on a bright future, one where everyone gets the opportunity to thrive.
Long Island will receive $62 million as a regional council awardee for their strategic plan. I'd like to invite the council co-chairs, Kevin Law and Stuart Rabinowitz, as well as all the stakeholders, to the stage to accept their award. Congratulations to all of today's award recipients. This has been a really exciting day. That concludes our program. Thank you so much for being with us.
Before we go, congratulations to all the winners. Another special thank you for the Lieutenant Governor who's worked so hard on this program. Howard Zemsky, our special guest, and I want you to know, Maria, these roses were actually grown from Howard's own garden. People don't know this, but besides ESD, his real love is gardening. And these roses are a special Zemsky edition. They're roses with no thorns, only ones like them. Thank you very much. Give Maria Bartiromo a big round of applause.